Welcome to our corner of understanding and compassion, where we delve into the complexities of relationships and nurture bonds that last a lifetime. Joseph was at home, deeply engrossed in working on financial reports when an unexpected phone call disrupted his concentration. The caller was his friend Dylan, and he seemed ecstatic about something he had discovered. Joseph struggled to shift his focus from the papers before him to the conversation with Dylan. Dylan enthusiastically shared his discovery, praising incredible talents he had come across. Joseph was intrigued but couldn't immediately grasp the full extent of what his friend was talking about. Eventually, he managed to focus on the conversation and asked for more details. Dylan explained that he had discovered a talented performer whom he wanted to showcase in his restaurant. He couldn't contain his excitement as he described the girl's voice as like a unicorn emerging from the mist on the other side of Adams Creek. He requested a reserved table for her every time she performed, praising both her sweet and melodious voice and the originality of her songs. Joseph's curiosity grew as he realized the potential significance of this discovery. He hadn't expected such a positive response to the talent he had found. Dylan's enthusiasm and endorsement meant a lot, especially considering his position as the deputy mayor. After the call ended, Joseph found himself contemplating the situation. The performer he had found had struck a chord with his friend and clearly had the potential to bring something unique to the restaurant. Joseph couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and excitement, wondering what opportunities this newfound talent might bring. Dylan's call not only surprised Joseph but also filled him with anticipation for the future. He knew he had stumbled upon something special, and he couldn't wait to see how this extraordinary talent would unfold. The wheels in Joseph's mind started turning, envisioning the possibilities for the restaurant and the performer alike. Joseph found himself in a state of confusion after receiving Dylan's raving phone call about an extraordinary performer. It was a stark contrast to the last act he had booked for the restaurant, a folk rock band that was playing that night. Intrigued by his friend's enthusiasm, Joseph couldn't resist the urge to unravel the mystery himself. Joseph Note was not your typical restaurateur. He was driven by a genuine passion for his profession. His unwavering dedication and creativity continuously pushed him to make his establishment truly remarkable. His restaurant had become renowned in the city, attracting eager patrons who booked reservations weeks in advance to secure a table. The dining experience at Joseph Note Restaurant was far from ordinary. Joseph believed that exceptional meals were just the beginning. He aimed to delight and surprise his guests with an atmosphere of enchantment and unexpected elements that would leave a lasting impression. To him, dining was an art form, and he strived to create an experience that would linger in the hearts of his guests long after they left. This commitment to innovation and excellence set his restaurant apart from others, making it an extraordinary destination for food enthusiasts. His belief in creating an ambience that combined delectable food with unforgettable moments had earned him a special place in the hearts of locals and visitors alike. Now, driven by curiosity, Joseph decided to pay a visit to the restaurant to witness this new talent that had so impressed his friend. He knew that whatever it was, it would be a delightful surprise that would add yet another chapter to the story of Joseph Note Restaurant. Mr. Note's creativity and love for the arts were evident in every aspect of his restaurant, infusing an air of excitement and anticipation for the guests. He had an uncanny ability to discover and showcase incredibly talented performers, leaving diners eagerly awaiting the next enchanting entertainment they would encounter on their next visit. The restaurant had become so renowned for its fusion of culinary excellence and artistic performances that it was affectionately referred to as a philharmonic or a theater. The seamless blending of these experiences not only enhanced its reputation but also contributed to the vibrant and lively atmosphere that captivated all who stepped through its doors. Known as The Tune, Mr. Note's restaurant had earned a loyal following among the city's high society clientele. Joseph, with his unfulfilled dreams of becoming an actor or singer, made a significant decision to devote a portion of the restaurant space to a stage. This personal touch allowed him to combine his love for the performing arts with his passion for creating exceptional dining experiences. Through this unique approach, Joseph fulfilled his artistic desires while offering a one-of-a-kind culinary and entertainment experience that drew the admiration of the city's elite. Larger events with more elaborate performances were reserved for weekends and holidays, attracting large crowds eager to witness the captivating shows. One day, as Emily, a staff member, observed the girls singing outside the restaurant, she mentioned it to her colleague. They had seen her before and knew that she was in need. Emily suggested getting her something to eat, but they both acknowledged that it was beyond their control to help her beyond that. Meanwhile, Joseph continued to enchant his guests with the magical combination of fine dining and captivating performances, creating memories that lingered like the notes of a beautiful melody. The impending rain was a concern for Emily and Isaac, the melody director and his assistant, as they watched a 12-year-old girl singing at a busy intersection. They had noticed her before but couldn't truly hear her enchanting voice due to the constant noise of passing cars. However, as the rain subsided, her mesmerizing singing finally reached their ears. Isaac was eager to help the girl, and Emily supported his idea to bring her to the restaurant. Despite Isaac's initial worry about Mr. Note's reaction, Emily reassured him that their boss would understand and appreciate their compassion. Without hesitation, Isaac rushed out into the rain and brought the girl back to the restaurant. Emily was taken aback when she saw the girl soaked from the rain. They quickly provided her with dry clothes and something warm to eat. Emily, being resourceful, found an old uniform that fit the girl, and they made her feel comfortable. With a warm smile, Emily encouraged the young singer to try performing at the restaurant. Though she couldn't make any promises, Emily assured the girl that any tips she earned from the performance would be hers to keep. Excitement filled the room as the girl hesitantly took the stage. Her captivating voice soon entranced everyone present. The guests were enchanted by her performance, and her talent won the hearts of the staff. From that moment on, the 12-year-old girl became a regular performer at the tune. Her performances added an extra layer of charm to the already remarkable restaurant. Emily and Isaac's intuition and kindness had discovered a hidden gem and brought joy to the girl's life, while enriching the dining experience for the patrons of the restaurant. Mr. Note was pleased and grateful for his exceptional managers who had an eye for talent and a heart for compassion. Deal? The girl, Natalie, nodded in agreement with Emily and Isaac's proposal. She seemed worried about the owner's reaction, but Emily assured her that Mr. Note was understanding and supportive, and they would take full responsibility. As Emily and Natalie chatted, Emily found out that Natalie and her mother had recently moved to the area, and her mother had fallen ill. Natalie's emotions overwhelmed her as she shared her story, and Emily comforted her with a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Emily suggested that Natalie could sing with the accompaniment of a talented guitarist they had at the restaurant. Although hesitant at first, Natalie agreed to give it a try. As the musicians set up on the stage, Emily, Isaac, and the audience watched with anticipation. Once the music began, Emily was captivated by Natalie's singing. It was unlike anything she had heard before, carrying a unique charm and an air of mystery. The song Natalie performed was entirely unfamiliar to Emily, yet it felt like an ancient tale woven into an enchanting melody. As Natalie's performance unfolded, the audience was enthralled by the spellbinding storytelling in her song. Her voice held an ethereal quality, and her passion seemed to transport listeners to another world. After Natalie finished singing, the room filled with applause and awestruck whispers. Emily was in awe of Natalie's extraordinary talent and knew that they had discovered something truly special. As the days went by, Natalie became a regular performer at the tune, mesmerizing guests with her exceptional voice and captivating storytelling through song. Her performances, accompanied by the talented guitarist, became a highlight of the dining experience at the restaurant. Word of Natalie's unique singing spread, and people from all over the city came to hear her performances. The tune's reputation soared even higher, attracting new guests eager to witness the enchanting performances by the talented young singer. Natalie's music touched the hearts of everyone who heard it, and her presence at the restaurant brought joy and inspiration to both staff and guests alike. With Natalie's arrival, the tune became a place where culinary excellence and artistic brilliance converged, leaving a lasting impression on all who dined there. The melody filled the room with a sense of timelessness, as if it were a rediscovered gem from the distant past, enchanting the audience with its haunting beauty. As the song reached its conclusion, a hushed silence settled over the room, leaving everyone in awe of Natalie's mesmerizing performance. Suddenly, the silence gave way to thunderous applause, a symphony of admiration and appreciation for the young singer's talent. Overwhelmed by the response, some audience members approached the stage to show their admiration by leaving generous tips. Emily reassured Natalie that the money was rightfully hers, a reward for her exceptional artistry. Natalie revealed that she knew many songs, all passed down to her by her grandmother, who had composed them herself. Emily suggested that Natalie take a break to rest and refresh before continuing her enchanting performance. During the break, Emily made sure Natalie had some tea and food, providing the support and care she deserved. When Natalie returned to the stage, this time accompanied by a skillful guitarist, her songs took on a new dimension. The delicate melodies of the guitar blended seamlessly with her ethereal voice, turning each performance into a true masterpiece. As the night went on, Natalie's captivating voice and heartfelt storytelling continued to mesmerize the audience. The room was filled with a sense of wonder, as if the crowd was transported to a world where emotions and music intertwined, leaving an indelible mark on their hearts. The magic of Natalie's performance was an experience that left everyone in awe, cherishing the memory of that enchanting night at the tune for years to come. With Natalie's presence, Joseph Note's restaurant truly became a place where culinary delights and artistic brilliance coalesced to create an extraordinary and unforgettable experience for all who entered its doors. Emily was completely absorbed in Natalie's performance, her gaze fixed on the young girl as she sang. The song Natalie chose to sing at that moment was unlike anything Emily had ever heard before. Its intricate and unique melody seemed to transcend the boundaries of time and space, transporting Emily to a world of enchantment. As Natalie's voice filled the room, Emily felt a surge of emotions welling up inside her. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes as she tried to contain her overwhelming feelings. The power and beauty of Natalie's voice and melody touched something deep within Emily's soul, evoking memories and emotions long forgotten. Taking a deep breath, Emily tried to compose herself, but the magic of Natalie's performance held her captive. In a moment of clarity, Emily realized that the song was an ancient lullaby, resonating with her on a profound level. It was as if the melody had awakened something within her, connecting her to a distant past. Meanwhile, Joseph arrived at the restaurant and noticed the unusually full parking lot. Curious, he decided to take a detour and headed for the patio, where he could hear someone singing on the stage inside. As he approached, he saw Emily, her eyes glistening with tears, fully immersed in Natalie's enchanting performance. The melody and voice seemed to cast a spell on everyone present, drawing them into a realm of music and emotion. Joseph stood in awe, witnessing the impact of Natalie's artistry on both Emily and the captivated audience. It was clear that this young girl possessed a gift that transcended ordinary talent. She had the power to touch hearts and souls with her incredible voice and the ancient melodies she brought to life. In that moment, Joseph knew that he had stumbled upon a treasure, a rare and extraordinary talent that would elevate the tune to even greater heights. The magical night would leave a lasting impression on everyone who was fortunate enough to be part of it, forever etching Natalie's name in the annals of the restaurant's legendary performances. Eager to discover the source of the captivating performance, Joseph quickened his pace towards the stage. As a restaurant owner always on the lookout for talented performers, he had honed his ability to recognize a great singer. The young girl's strong and powerful voice caught his attention, and he found himself utterly entranced by her performance. In the midst of his fascination, a sudden realization made Joseph freeze in his tracks. His heart raced as a thought crossed his mind, and a feeling of familiarity washed over him. He couldn't shake the sensation that he had heard this voice before. Straining to hear more clearly, Joseph stepped closer to the stage. With each note, the sense of familiarity grew stronger. He knew he had heard this song before, though it had been years since he last encountered it. The girl's face was turned sideways, so he couldn't see her clearly, but the melody tugged at his memories. The more he listened, the more convinced he became that he had indeed heard this song in the past. Recalling the past, Joseph's mind drifted to an unforgettable journey into the Alaskan wilderness with his friends. The memories of that time flooded back, filled with excitement, adventure, and the freedom of youth. There was a particular day when they navigated a treacherous river in boats, the wildness of nature surrounding them. And then he remembered her, a kind and gentle girl from that time, who mentioned that her mother had taught her those very songs. The flood of memories brought forth a deep sense of nostalgia and longing, as if a lost piece of his past had suddenly resurfaced through the voice of this gifted young girl. In his reverie, Joseph was transported back to the moment when the current threatened to sweep him away down the river. The memory of that turbulent day mirrored the surge of emotions he now experienced as he listened to the song. It was as if the past and the present intertwined, and he was left with a profound connection to both the song and the memories it evoked. With a mix of emotions, Joseph continued to stand there, drawn into the girl's performance, his heart echoing the melody of the past. The magical night had become even more extraordinary, as the young girl's voice not only enchanted the audience but also rekindled a long-forgotten part of Joseph's soul. He fought against the relentless current, his muscles straining as he struggled to keep his head above water. Panic threatened to overwhelm him as he found himself powerless against the force that carried him towards an impending waterfall. The world blurred around him as he plummeted over the edge, heart pounding in his chest. In the rush of the descent, he felt disoriented, and a flash of light briefly blinded him upon impact with the water. Darkness enveloped him, and consciousness slipped away. When he finally awoke, he found himself in a small cabin, surrounded by unfamiliar faces and unfamiliar sounds. As he regained his bearings, a young girl stood at his side, her expression filled with genuine concern and kindness. She introduced herself as a local from a nearby village, explaining that her family had discovered him unconscious and rescued him from the river's clutches. The memory of that remote Alaskan village came flooding back to him, a tranquil settlement nestled amidst the rugged wilderness. The image of the welcoming old mother and the caring young girl who had nursed him back to health remained etched in his mind. As Joseph recalled the events, he remembered the moment of impact and his body collided with a rock, rendering him unconscious. The turbulent waters tossed him about, leaving his skin scraped and bruised from the unforgiving riverbed. Yet, in that turmoil, the gentle touch of the girl's hands and the soothing sound of her voice brought solace to his battered soul. He realized that this young girl and her family had been his saviors in the wilderness. Their compassion and care had been the lifeline that pulled him back from the edge of danger. The memory of their kindness had stayed with him, even though he had long forgotten their faces and their names. Now, listening to the enchanting voice of the girl on the stage, he recognized that the song held a special significance, a poignant connection to that time when he was rescued by the village girl. The melody carried the essence of that long-lost chapter in his life, intertwining the past and present in a symphony of emotions. Lost in the profound moments of the present and the memories of the past, Joseph marveled at the inexplicable beauty of life's journey. The enchanting performance, coupled with the recollection of his Alaskan adventure, left him with a deep sense of gratitude and wonder at the unexpected twists and turns that life could take. The girl who had rescued him was just a few years younger than Joseph, yet she had cared for him with a wisdom and maturity beyond her age. She tended to his wounds with herbal remedies and poultices, nursing him back to health with the nourishment of fish and berries gathered from the forest. Her kindness and generosity touched Joseph deeply, as she welcomed him into her home and treated him with unwavering care and concern. During his recovery, the girl would sing lullabies to him, and the gentle melodies had a magical effect on his troubled mind, lulling him into a peaceful and restful sleep. Joseph realized the timeless power of lullabies, how they could bring comfort and solace even in the most challenging times. In the quiet confines of the small hut, Joseph had the opportunity to ponder his life and the choices he had made. As a successful businessman, he had been driven by ambition, leaving little room for anything beyond his professional pursuits. But in the care of this young girl and her mother, he understood the depth of the connections he had missed and the significance of leading a life guided by compassion and kindness. A week passed, and Joseph's strength gradually returned. With newfound vigor, he ventured outside and found himself captivated by the sheer beauty of the natural world that enveloped him. The lush greenery, vibrant flowers, and crystal-clear streams filled him with awe as he immersed himself in the wonders of nature. As he explored the surroundings, he noticed the intricate details that made this place so special. The gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze, the distant songs of birds, and the sweet fragrance of wildflowers all contributed to the serene ambience that enveloped him. Joseph's heart swelled with gratitude for the young girl and her mother who had offered him shelter and care in his time of need. Their selflessness had shown him the value of human connection and the profound joy that could be found in the simplicity of life. In this remote corner of the Alaskan wilderness, Joseph experienced a transformation. He had been rescued not only from the treacherous river but also from the narrow confines of his ambition-driven life. Through the young girl's nurturing care and the tranquil beauty of the natural world, he discovered a deeper appreciation for the true essence of life and the boundless capacity for love and compassion. Joseph found himself completely captivated by the beauty of the girl who had tended to him and nursed him back to health. He couldn't help but steal glances at her as she moved gracefully around the house, her long, flowing hair glistening in the sunlight and her eyes radiating kindness and warmth. Her care and devotion had left an indelible mark on Joseph's heart, and he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude that words couldn't fully express. As they spent more time together in the village, Joseph and Zoe began to know each other on a deeper level. One day, while sitting by the river, Zoe revealed her name to Joseph. He chuckled lightly, explaining that he had never heard the name Zoe before and found it amusing. Zoe took it in stride and asked if he liked any other names. In that moment, Joseph thought of his grandmother, a gentle and loving woman with a warm heart. He suggested the name Natalie, and Zoe was surprised but pleased with his choice. She agreed that it was a beautiful name and asked him why he liked it. Joseph's response brought back memories of his grandmother's tenderness, and he shared with Zoe the admiration he had for her. As the days passed, the connection between Joseph and Zoe grew stronger, and they couldn't resist the attraction they felt for each other. Finally, they surrendered to their feelings, spending a night wrapped in each other's embrace, lost in the passionate intensity of the moment. In the heart of the Alaskan wilderness, their love blossomed like the wildflowers around them, untamed and true. Their relationship was a reflection of the beauty and tranquility of nature, and they cherished every moment spent together. Joseph had found not only a sanctuary in this remote village but also a sanctuary in Zoe's arms. Their love story bloomed like the wild beauty of the Alaskan landscape, and in each other, they discovered the solace and joy that only true love can bring. Their connection transcended time and place, finding its roots in the ancient lullabies that Zoe sang and the memories of Joseph's grandmother. Their love became a melody that intertwined with the melody of nature, creating a harmonious symphony of love in the heart of the Alaskan wilderness. The next day, Joseph's moment of bliss with Zoe was interrupted when his friends finally arrived at the small village where he had been staying. After searching for him for over 2 weeks, they had tracked him down and were thrilled to see him. Joseph rushed to greet his friends, eager to catch up on all that had happened during his time away. As he introduced them to Zoe, the girl who had been caring for him, he sensed a tension in the air. His friends couldn't help but notice the closeness between Joseph and Zoe, and they became a little suspicious. They were always protective of Joseph and didn't want to see him get hurt. The truth was that Joseph had grown fond of Zoe during his time in the village, and he had promised to return for her. She had been hopeful about a better future, believing in his promise and eagerly awaiting his return. However, As time passed and Joseph got caught up in his busy city life, he gradually forgot about his promise. Back in the city, Joseph found himself overwhelmed with work and chores, and the memory of his time with Zoe began to fade. Despite listening to songs that reminded him of her, he got immersed in the hustle and bustle of his daily routine. He tried to focus on work, but his mind kept drifting back to the peaceful village and the enchanting melodies of Zoe's songs. As he stood on the terrace lost in thought, the song ended, and he decided to head back to the restaurant. He went straight to his office and sat down at his desk, but his mind was elsewhere. Emily, the perceptive assistant, noticed his distracted state and approached him with surprise. "Mr. Note, what a pleasant surprise to see you here today. We weren't expecting you," Emily said. Joseph looked up and offered a small smile. "Expect me anytime, Emily," he replied, trying to maintain his composure. Joseph couldn't shake the memories of Zoe and the village. The echoes of her lullabies and the kindness she had shown him lingered in his heart. He knew he had made a promise, but life's demands had swallowed him up, making it challenging to keep his word. As he wrestled with his emotions, Joseph knew that he needed to find a way to fulfill his promise to Zoe. He couldn't let her faith in him be in vain, and he had to decide what truly mattered to him. The melody of their encounter and the harmony of their hearts called him back to the village, back to Zoe, and back to the promise he had made. Joseph was taken aback by the revelation that Natalie's mother was named Zoe. His mind was a whirlwind of emotions as he tried to piece together the puzzle before him. Emily, sensing the gravity of the situation, stepped forward to inquire if Joseph was okay. He took a deep breath to steady himself and managed to maintain his composure. With a hint of trepidation in his voice, Joseph asked Natalie about her mother. She explained that Zoe was in the hospital, gravely ill, and unaware of Natalie's visit to the restaurant. They had moved to the town a few months ago following the passing of Natalie's grandmother, who had always wanted them to live there. As the conversation continued, Emily grew increasingly perplexed, unable to fully comprehend the connection between Natalie, Zoe, and Joseph. However, Joseph's countenance seemed to reveal a different story. His head hung low, and a mix of shock and disbelief played across his face. Joseph couldn't shake the thought that Natalie might be his daughter. The name, Zoe, and the unmistakable yellowish eyes she shared with her mother left little doubt in his mind. Yet, he couldn't understand why he hadn't known about her existence all these years. Struggling to come to terms with his emotions, Joseph wrestled with the question of why he hadn't been a part of Natalie's life if she truly was his daughter. The weight of the revelation was overwhelming, and he needed time to process it all. In the midst of his inner turmoil, Emily expressed her concern for Joseph's well-being. He remained silent, contemplating the impact of this newfound information. The reality began to sink in that Zoe had never stopped waiting for him, believing he would return, as he had promised. Joseph raised his hand and asked Natalie where her mother was at that moment. She explained that Zoe had been taken to the hospital, and due to their financial struggles, they were evicted from the room they had been renting. The weight of the situation hung heavy in the air, and Joseph knew he couldn't ignore the connection he felt with Natalie and her mother. He had to face the truth and confront the past he had left behind. With a determined look in his eyes, Joseph made a decision: to be there for Zoe and Natalie, to offer the love and support they needed in this challenging time. Joseph felt an overwhelming sense of sadness and guilt as he learned about Zoe's health situation and the challenges she and Natalie were facing. It had been 6 months since they moved to the city, hoping for a better life. Zoe worked tirelessly as a dishwasher, while Natalie used her voice to earn some extra money. Despite their efforts, they found it increasingly difficult to make ends meet. The rising rent and stained rental history from their previous eviction had made it challenging for them to find a new, affordable place to live. The situation had become dire, and Natalie's mother's health condition only added to their burdens. Joseph knew he had to do something to help them. He immediately decided to go to the public hospital to find Zoe and offer his support. Instructing Natalie to wait outside, Joseph walked purposefully with Emily by his side. She could see the concern and determination in his eyes. Once inside his office, Joseph closed the door and confided in Emily, seeking her advice. He was grappling with the weight of the situation, feeling guilty for not knowing about Natalie and unsure of how to handle it all. Emily reassured him that he couldn't have known, that life had its way of revealing surprises and challenges. She lightened the mood by pointing out ink on his nose, prompting laughter from Joseph. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Emily's supportive presence helped ease some of the tension. As he cleaned the ink from his nose, Joseph looked at Emily and asked what he should do. She could sense the turmoil in him, and she responded with genuine empathy and care. Emily's words were reassuring, urging him not to be too hard on himself and to focus on finding a solution for Zoe and Natalie. She reminded him of his kindness and compassion, and that the past couldn't be undone. What mattered now was how he chose to support them in their time of need. With renewed determination, Joseph decided he would do whatever it took to help Zoe and Natalie. He would ensure they received proper medical care and work with Emily to find a suitable and affordable place for them to live. His heart was set on being there for them, just as they had been there for him when he needed it most. As he stepped out of his office, Joseph's mind was set on making things right and building a future with his newfound daughter and her mother. He was ready to face the challenges ahead, knowing that his love and support would make a difference in their lives. "I hope you're happy with the situation," Emily remarked, not shying away from her straightforwardness. Joseph let out a sigh and replied, "Emily, this is exactly why I've never let you leave the restaurant. You know how to ask the hard questions." He paused for a moment before continuing, "Ultimately, yes, I am happy. But my feelings are mixed right now, especially about Zoe. I mean, I don't know the extent of her condition." As Joseph and Natalie arrived at the hospital, night had fallen. The situation was dire, and due to Zoe's lack of medical insurance and financial constraints, the doctors could only provide basic care to stabilize her. Natalie waited patiently in the hallway while Joseph entered the ward and caught sight of Zoe. His heart skipped a beat as he saw her lying on the bed, asleep and unaware of his presence. He sat on the edge of the bed, holding Zoe's hand gently. Memories flooded back to him, and he was struck by her natural beauty, despite the toll the illness had taken on her. His emotions were overwhelming, and he fought back tears as he closed his eyes, seeing Natalie's face in his mind's eye. The resemblance between them was uncanny, and he couldn't shake the feeling that she was indeed his daughter. The tears finally fell, betraying the depth of his emotions. Zoe's eyes fluttered open, heavy from the sedatives. She looked at Joseph, her brow furrowing in confusion. Her groggy mind tried to comprehend the emotional scene before her. Joseph, with tears in his eyes, looked into her eyes, uncertain of how to explain the complex emotions he was experiencing. He took a deep breath and spoke softly, "Zoe, it's me, Joseph. I know this is overwhelming, but I need to talk to you. I just found out about Natalie, and I think she's my daughter. I never knew about her until today, but seeing her, I can't ignore the resemblance." Zoe's eyes widened in surprise and then softened with understanding. The revelation seemed to strike a chord within her, and she managed to smile weakly. "You found her? That's wonderful," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Joseph nodded, a mix of relief and guilt flooding his heart. "I promise you, Zoe, I will take care of both of you. We'll get through this together." Zoe's grip on his hand tightened slightly, and she whispered, "Thank you." She didn't have the strength for more words, but her eyes spoke volumes of gratitude. As Joseph and Zoe sat together, Natalie peeked into the room. Seeing them together, she knew that something important had been revealed. She approached hesitantly, her heart pounding in her chest. Joseph looked at Natalie and gave her a reassuring smile. "Natalie, come here," he beckoned gently. As she approached, He held out his other hand, and Natalie took it without hesitation. In that moment, a newfound connection formed between them, the bond of a father and his long-lost daughter, and the promise of a future filled with love and support. "I'm so sorry, Zoe," Joseph whispered, his voice filled with regret. It was evident that Zoe was too weak to respond immediately as she struggled to process what she had just heard. Yet, her generous heart prompted her to offer a faint, forgiving smile in response to Joseph's heartfelt apology. "It's okay," she whispered quietly, her voice barely audible. Joseph shook his head, tears flowing more freely now. "No, it's not okay. I'm sorry, Zoe. I didn't keep my promise." His emotions overwhelmed him, and he couldn't hold back his tears. Despite her own tears, Zoe continued to smile, and in this moment, her smile and tears only served to enhance her beauty, adding a tender warmth to her expression. "Please take care of Natalie," Zoe begged, her concern for her daughter evident in her voice. The doctors entered the room, preparing to move Zoe, and Natalie couldn't control her emotions, sobbing loudly as she clung to her mother's shoulder. Zoe gently stroked her daughter's hair, offering whatever comfort she could in this heartbreaking moment. "It's going to be okay. Mr. Note promised to take care of you," Zoe reassured her daughter, her voice filled with love and hope. "Mommy, I love you so much. Promise me you won't leave me. Promise me, please," Natalie pleaded through her tears, her heartache palpable. "You won't be alone, baby. You're going to have." Zoe's voice trailed off as she looked at Joseph, who met her gaze with guilt-ridden eyes. Natalie noticed the exchange between her mother and the man she had just learned was her father. Her eyes moved back and forth between them, trying to comprehend the situation. As she studied Joseph's features, the truth slowly dawned on her. Her expression shifted from doubt to realization and then to visible anger at her father. Joseph looked at Natalie with compassion, understanding the complexity of her emotions. He wanted to give her a comforting hug, but he held back, giving her space to process the situation. "I'm sorry. I didn't know about you. Had I known you existed, I would have done everything in my power, even given my life, to be there for you," Joseph said with sincerity, his voice filled with remorse. Natalie's emotions were overwhelming, a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. She needed time to come to terms with this newfound reality. Zoe reached out to her daughter, her heart aching for the pain Natalie was going through. "I know this is a lot to take in, sweetheart. But I hope with time, we can build a relationship and make up for the lost years," Zoe said, her voice gentle and comforting. Natalie looked at her mother, her anger slowly subsiding, replaced by a glimmer of hope. She nodded, still tearful but willing to give this new chapter in her life a chance. As the three of them faced the difficult path ahead, they knew that they would need to navigate the complexities of their past and build a future together, bound by love, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bond of family. "Please forgive me," Joseph begged, his voice full of sincerity and remorse. Zoe took her daughter's hand and gently reassured her, "Sweetheart, your father has a good heart. We were both young and..." She trailed off, acknowledging that their past choices and circumstances had led them to this point, but emphasizing Joseph's good intentions. As the doctors wheeled Zoe out and prepared to put her in the ambulance, Natalie asked Joseph, "Where are they taking her?" He replied, "I've arranged everything at a private hospital. She'll be treated, and she'll be back with us soon, Natalie." As the ambulance pulled away, Joseph turned to Natalie and said, "Let's go home." He waited for her reaction, unsure of how she would respond. Natalie stood motionless for a moment, emotionally exhausted from the day's revelations. She hardly noticed what Joseph had been doing all this time. Taking a step toward her, Joseph gently opened the passenger door of his truck for her without saying anything. Natalie stood there, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions she was experiencing. Joseph approached her and stood very close, opening his arms as if asking permission to embrace her. With uncertainty in her eyes, Natalie slowly placed her hand on his chest. Joseph took another small step toward her, and she eventually leaned into the embrace. Finally, for the first time, Joseph held his daughter in his arms. He felt an incredible sense of happiness and satisfaction knowing that this girl, with her silky hair and soft shoulders, was his own daughter. "Thank you for giving me a second chance," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. It took some time for Natalie to adjust to living in a stranger's house, especially since that stranger was also her father. But as the days passed, they began to build a relationship and understand each other. Slowly, they formed a bond that had been missing for so long. They talked, they laughed, they shared stories, and they supported each other through the difficult times. Natalie learned about her father's life, his passions, and his dreams, while Joseph discovered the talented, resilient, and loving young woman his daughter had become. In the embrace of family, they found healing and forgiveness. The pain of the past gradually faded as they focused on building a future together. And as their love grew, Natalie realized that she had finally found a place where she belonged, a place where her heart could call home. The day after Zoe was moved to a comfortable private hospital, Joseph paid her a visit. It was a beautiful day with a refreshing breeze that came after a night of heavy rain. Joseph's heart was overflowing with joy and satisfaction because in just one day he had found a family. Before going to the clinic, Joseph decided to stop by the restaurant. As always, it was packed with customers, but he managed to pull the manager, Emily, and her assistant, Isaac, aside for a quick chat. "Who came up with the idea of having Natalie sing here?" Joseph asked, looking at Emily and Isaac. They exchanged worried glances before Emily spoke. "Mr. Note, I apologize. It was our idea, both Isaac's and mine. We thought Natalie had a beautiful voice and..." Emily's explanation was cut short when Joseph interrupted. "So you're telling me that it wasn't just one of you, that you both came up with the idea together?" "We did. I kept telling Emily that we should bring Natalie over." "I'm so sorry, Mr. Note, if that was against the rules of the restaurant," Isaac admitted, acknowledging he was new to the team. Joseph stared at them intently, his stern expression slowly changing to a smile. "Relax, both of you. You did a great job. Have I told you how much I don't want you to leave, Joseph?" he added with a grin. "Man, you scared us, Mr. Note," Emily sighed in relief and started to laugh. "Okay, guys. I don't usually do this, but this is a special occasion. Follow me." Joseph led them into his office and wrote 2 checks for $20,000 each for Emily and Isaac. At first, they were astonished, exchanging glances with disbelief, but then they began to dance with excitement. All right, boys, back to work. It's the beginning of a busy day," Joseph chuckled. Arriving at the clinic, the doctors updated Joseph on Zoe's condition. He peered through the window into her room and saw 3 medical professionals attentively tending to her. Joseph was hopeful that Zoe would recover soon. He spent time by her side, talking to her softly and holding her hand, knowing that he had a chance to make things right and be the family she and Natalie needed. In the days that followed, Zoe's condition gradually improved. Joseph and Natalie continued to visit her regularly, showering her with love and support. The bond between father and daughter grew stronger with each passing day. Natalie's performances at the restaurant continued, captivating the guests and bringing newfound success to the establishment. Joseph had found his purpose in life, not just as a successful businessman, but as a caring father and friend. As the days turned into weeks, he embraced the joys and challenges of parenthood, cherishing every moment he spent with Natalie and Zoe. The restaurant became more than just a place of business, it became a symbol of love, unity, and the power of second chances. And so, Joseph's life had come full circle, and he knew that he had finally found the missing pieces that had been absent for far too long. Carrying a large bouquet of flowers, Joseph entered the room where Zoe was resting. The nurses noticed him and decided to leave them alone for some private time. Joseph carefully placed the bouquet on a nearby stand and took a seat beside Zoe's bed. "How are you feeling, Zoe?" he asked softly. "I'm feeling much better. Thank you for everything," Zoe replied with a gentle smile. "Zoe, thank you for everything. I never realized that you were the reason that I'm still alive and here. I've never thanked you properly. I'm going to fix that now, if you'll let me," Joseph said, his voice filled with sincerity and emotion. A month later, Zoe was released from the hospital, looking beautiful and healthy. Emily and Isaac were busy decorating the restaurant for tonight's special dinner. Natalie was nervous, getting ready to sing on stage for her parents. It was a beautiful day for all. Zoe and Joseph danced in the middle of the room to Zoe's beautiful and melodic singing. As the evening drew to a close, Emily approached Joseph as he stood on the porch, smoking a cigarette. She could sense that there was more to his story than he had let on. "Why did you never come back?" Emily finally asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. Joseph didn't look at Emily, but he couldn't hide the amusement in his voice. "Emily, did I tell you that I didn't want you to leave the restaurant?" he replied with a half-smile. Emily knew there was something deeper behind his words, and she pressed on. "So, what was the real reason?" Joseph took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before answering. "The reason I never went back was because I loved Zoe so much that I wanted to forget her. She was so beautiful, and I was afraid of losing her. I know now that it was a foolish decision, but that's how I felt back then. I was young and scared of my own feelings for her. But when I realized that my actions had consequences, I decided to try to work things out. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I'm happy to have a beautiful daughter and a potential wife," Joseph concluded, opening up to Emily about the depths of his emotions. Emily nodded understandingly, giving Joseph a reassuring smile. "Well, it looks like you've found your way back to happiness, and that's what matters." As Joseph embraced his new family, he knew that the past was behind him, and the future was full of hope and love. With Zoe by his side and Natalie's enchanting voice bringing joy to everyone around them, Joseph felt complete. The restaurant, once just a business venture, had become a place where love and second chances flourished, and Joseph was grateful for the journey that had led him there. Thank you for joining me and immersing yourself in this story. I hope it brought you joy and left you with valuable insights. If you enjoyed it, kindly give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more captivating stories like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so please share them in the comments below. Until next time, take care and see you soon.